pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin, I'd like to undertake a few ministerial notices, if you will. First off, the fire exit is located to your left. In the event of a fire, you will be notified by an announcement. If notified, please move in a calm and orderly fashion to the exit. Do not use the elevator. Use either the front or the back stairs to leave the building. Our meetings are recorded by our secretary, Michelle, for the purpose of a record, not for a transcript. So when you come forward to the podium, please identify yourself by your name and your address each time that you come to the podium, and please be sure and speak into the microphone so that everyone can hear what you're saying. We will follow the items in the order that they appear on the agenda. There are extra copies of the agenda on the table next to the door. Once the case has been called, the applicant or their representative will come to the podium, identify themselves, state their address, raise their right hand, be sworn, and then present their case. During their presentation, members of the board will have an opportunity to ask questions or engage in discussions with the applicant, after which we will open the hearing up for public input. There are three categories of public input that have been identified thus far. The first is those who wish to speak in favor of the application, then those who wish to speak in opposition to the application, and last, those who wish to speak concerning the application but aren't sure if they're for it, against it, or what their position might be. Once we've gone through those three categories of public input, we will then give the applicant an opportunity to address any concerns that may have been raised during that portion of the hearing. At that point, the hearing will be closed and we will move on to the next case. Once all of the hearings on the agenda have been completed, we will then take a recess for about short recess, and then we will come back and deliberate with respect to the cases in the order in which they appear on the agenda and in which the applicants remain present in the room. So if the applicant pertaining to the first case on the agenda has left, we would take up the second case first, and after we've taken the cases of those applicants who remain, we would then start with the first case and go down through the agenda again until we've discussed all of the cases. We have a case tonight that was tabled from the November meeting. That was case ZB 1311-4, and that pertains to property at 1720 Portland Avenue. When that case was considered last month, the deliberation resulted in a 3-3 tie, which is not enough to act affirmatively with respect to the application and not enough to affirmatively deny it. Tonight, Mr. Santoro is not present, who was present at the hearing. Mr. Polino was not present, but he's present tonight, but that would mean we would have to redo the entire hearing because he wasn't present and didn't hear the discussion. So, and because the decision last month was a decision that involved mixed views on the part of the board. After discussing it with our council, it's our determination that it would be appropriate to adjourn that to January's meeting, when hopefully we will have a full complement of 7 board members who can hear and determine that application without any further need to delay or adjourn. Which leads into the last thing that I have to address before we get onto the agenda, and that is, at this time every year, we have the unfortunate responsibility of saying goodbye to one of the members of the board, because we all serve 7-year terms that are staggered from year to year. This year's board member who will be retiring is Carmen Santoro, who unfortunately is not able to be with us tonight, but we would like to thank Carm for his service on the zoning board. He's been a valuable member of our board. He will be missed, and we look forward to adding, as we do every January, a new member to our zoning board, and we have no idea at this point who that will be. So if anyone is interested in being a part of the board, you should contact the town hall and let them know of your interest. I did forget one thing. During the deliberation portion of our meeting, no further public input is allowed. If you would like to know what the outcome is of a case, and you do not wish to stay to the end of our meeting, you can go home and turn on Channel 12, and you can watch us deliberate in some places in town. I understand not everyone is able to view our show anymore. Or you can call the Planning and Zoning Department here at the Town Hall tomorrow morning after 9 o'clock, and they will be glad to tell you what the decision of the board was with respect to the matters on our agenda. So, unless I've overlooked something, I think we can call our first case.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First item on the agenda is case number ZB 1312-1. Upon the matter of request by Daniel Demanicore for an area variance to construct a 6-foot-high wood fence with less than required street side setback on premises 66 Wisner Road in an R1 residential district.
Good evening. My name is Dan Demanicore, 66 Wisner. A little nervous here, first time, so.
No problem if you would raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Currently, I have 2/3 of the fence up. The reason why the third part isn't up, somebody turned me in for whatever reason. They didn't like, I guess, the fence going up. But the main reason is, it's threefold. One is the deer is destroying my yard, being a corner lot. Second, I have a little dog that I can't let out for fear of him running into the street, or who knows, at night with the deer. And last is, again, being a corner lot, there's absolutely no privacy there. I just found out there are 6.5 foot high, I don't know what kind of bushes you would call them, that is currently the town's, which I thought was mine, plus approximately 60 feet in length by 13 feet width grass that I was maintaining over the summer. That is also the town's. I just moved in end of August, so that's something, after finding that out and talking to Michelle again, that's something I will definitely keep maintaining, cutting, fertilizing, doing all that stuff, trimming. So with that fence, your town supervisor, from the Public Works, I don't know if you have that memo, Pat Meredith came down and saw what I was planning to do and where, so hopefully you have that. I know Michelle was good enough to take care of that today for me. And also, I know, Mr. Hinman, you stepped over Friday evening to look yourself and see. This is a dog ear fence, so it's not by any means a cheap stockade or anything. And come May or June, it will be stained. So I do maintain as far as that goes.
And as we discussed Friday night, you're going to run it behind the hedge that's there, so it would be right on the border of the town right-of-way.
Yes,
And it will connect to the other sections of the fence.
yes,
And this is going to be in what under the definition would be your backyard, is that
yes.
correct?
Yep, the whole yard is considered rear yard. That's why I'm doing 6 feet.
I have a question. I was looking at it yesterday, and I got a little confused when I looked at these documents here, because on the one I see an overhead photo with a red line around it and a squiggly part on one side, which I didn't know if that meant that was a mistake, or if that's really what you want to put the fence.
No, I don't know if that squiggly line, Michelle can maybe help on this one, so.
I was trying to explain to him that squiggly line is the actual right-of-way.
That's all grass, that's the town's.
That squiggly, this is all town right-of-way where that squiggly line is.
Is that going to be the case in the future, when we see a squiggly line?
If you so choose, I could,
Only if there's a key at the bottom.
If it makes you feel better, Russ, I had the same question. Is the fence going where it's blue on the instrument survey, or is the fence going where it's blue on the instrument survey? I had the
Yeah.
same question. We'll have to send Michelle back to map making 101.
Well, it did confuse me, and I wanted to get that off my mind right away, because as I look at the drawing now, that fence is not coming nearly as far as I thought.
Right.
The fence is coming up to the rear corner of the house,
Right, to the
not right up
bushes.
to the corner of Wisner, so
No,
that makes a lot of difference.
if you're confused, you should be in my shoes.
Thank you.
I apologize also to confuse you, Russ.
I can handle
Also,
it.
just to let you know, there's no wires, lines, power lines are behind the house, and also I'm sorry, Pat said that no, the sewers or anything, none of that is gonna interfere by any means.
Now, is that a gate back there already, ready to go, or how does that?
Half a gate,
Half a gate, okay.
because the other half is, that's what I'm waiting to see tonight so they can finish it,
I see,
so.
got it.
From where the fence ends right now, the two sides that you've already put up, how much further coming toward the road is it gonna be?
From where it is now, it's
Yes,
gonna,
from the-
basically, I don't know if you drove by the property where
Yeah.
those bushes are, the bushes will be on the outside.
So right
Fence.
behind the bushes?
Right.
And that's approximately how many feet to the edge of the road?
About 15 feet. Originally, they told me 18-foot right-of-way plus the 3-foot setback, which would be a third of my yard, driveway would all be gone.
Right.
And then they called and said, no, it's 13 feet, not 18 feet. So with the 3-foot, it takes me, she said, to the bushes.
The back side of the bushes?
Yes. So the bushes will be facing the street.
All right, okay.
And the finished side of the fence will be facing the street.
Yes, oh yes, like the rest of it.
Does anybody have any other questions? All right. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application? Step right up, and if you could give us your name and your address, please.
Good evening, my name is Eddie Dunn. I live at 56 Fairleigh Drive, just up the road from Dan. Since he's moved in, I've seen the things that he's done at his home. He's really beautified the interior, and I can only imagine that when he's done with what he's doing on the outside, the exterior will look as nice as the inside looks. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else that wishes to speak in favor of the application, step right up.
Hi, I'm Janet View. I live at 52 Wisner Road, and I'm also a corner lot, and I'm directly across the street from Dan's property at 66. So my front door and driveway face his front door and driveway. And he's going to construct the fence, a big 6-foot-high privacy fence behind a hedgerow of bushes. So I'm supporting this. However, I had to come to make a comment to say that if that hedgerow wasn't there, I would have had a problem with it. Because we used to have a rule in Arundecoit that if you were going to construct a fence, even if it was a corner lot, it couldn't go beyond the front corner of the house going toward the street, and this is well beyond the front corner of the house.
Actually, it's not,
If you go from the corner of the house toward the bushes, there's a
because
room.
the front corner of the house is to be defined as the southwest corner of his house, because the front is on Wisner Road, not
Because it, yes, I
Fairleigh.
understand, but when we have a corner property, I understand that you kind of have two fronts. So there's a technicality that he's talking about his backyard, but in the future, I think there's always been some concern in the town about corner lots and fencing on corner lots. So I just wanted to say, I kind of missed that change in the rules and the regulations that you had before. But Dan's an excellent neighbor, does a really good job, keeps things up, and I think that the placement of his fence and the appearance of the fence is going to be a very positive thing.
I'd also like to point out one other thing, and that is frequently when we approve fences, we ask, if not making it a condition, sometimes we make it a condition, other times we simply request that the applicant put some landscaping in front to soften the impact
Yeah,
of the
that's
fences.
good.
So
That's
we
good.
do try and take that into account.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this application? Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to this application? Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the application, not for or against, or are not sure? Then we'll, I'm sorry. Manicord, did you wish to address anything further? No. Okay, then we will close the hearing with respect to that case and move on to our next case.
Next item on the agenda is case number ZB 1312-2. Upon the matter of request by Land Tech Surveying and Planning, PLLC, acting as agent for Craig Armitage for use variance to construct and operate a mini storage facility on premises 670 Washington Avenue in an R1 residential district.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name's John Sharaba. I'm with Land Tech, and I'm here representing As Washington LLC. Also with me this evening is Mr. Armitage, who can answer any questions that I can't. You may recognize Mr. Armitage because if you were at the site recently, and if you remember back 2 years ago at this board, Mr. Armitage received a use variance for a piece of property just down the street at 723 Washington Avenue. And if you've been down there, you can see the extensive renovations, a brand-new building. It was maroon color with stone front, and it's been a welcome addition to the neighborhood from my understanding. I know Larry could speak to that, but so in order to describe what we're asking for this evening, I just want to give you a little history of where Mr. Armitage is looking at. Also to describe, okay,
Before you go any further,
Yep.
I need you to raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes, I do.
Okay, I'm sorry to...
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So in order to describe why we're asking for a use variance, I just want to kind of go over the property itself. This property is located on the east side of Washington Avenue, just north of Lakeshore Boulevard. It's about 3/4 of an acre in size, and currently there are 3 residents on there. The first resident is the main house that fronts on Washington Avenue. This property was purchased in February of this year, and Mr. Armitage focused on that main house. That house went from total disrepair. He installed new carpet, new flooring, new kitchen, new appliances, drywall, renovated that from a property that was almost inhabitable to a rental situation where there's a young family living there with 2 young children. So that's what the plan was with that house. Also on the property are 2 other houses that are in total disrepair. And the intent was originally, at the purchase, was to upgrade those 2 houses and rent those houses out, just like the main house. And getting involved with the property, Mr. Armitage picks up the first house, got it rented out, had an open house, had people coming from the neighborhood to the open house, took input, says, oh, what a beautiful job you did on the house, explained to him what he wanted to do in the future, and actually met with the neighbors. Also, Mr. Armitage petitioned the neighborhood to come look and say, and see what he's done to the house. At that point in time, it became apparent that those 2 houses were a blight on the neighborhood, for lack of a better term. Open drug dealing, fights, loud parties. So we actually did some research, and in the packet I provided you, I believe there was over 40 police calls to that resident in the last 10 years. So the use variance is twofold. There was a use variance request because of the financial impact of an investment such as this, not being able to use those houses, but also more by the neighborhood. The neighborhood said, we don't like those houses. What can you do? So Mr. Armitage kind of went back to the drawing board and came up with this idea, trying to find a low-impact use on the property. It would not have 3 residential houses on 3/4 of an acre. Met with town staff, asked, what's the process to go through this? Should we look at rezoning or variances? And the direction we were given by staff was go for a use variance. So that's why we're here and how we got here tonight. The project itself is fairly simple. It's mini storage. We're proposing 2 20-unit buildings. These buildings are 40 feet wide, approximately 90 feet long. Typical mini storage. We propose on screening this facility with board-on-board fence entirely. We want to keep the impact low to the environment, or to the neighborhood. We do not want to have any lighting. The only lighting we propose is maybe motion-activated lighting to go along with security cameras that would come on if there was an element that was in there at night. We don't want to have this thing lit up to impact the neighbors. I mentioned the screening, a board-on-board fence on all sides. There will be a gate located just west of the first building. We're proposing a new driveway that's going to run along the railroad property, away from the neighbors again. A gate will be pushed there. There'll be a coded gate. We're doing a kind of a dawn to dusk operation. We don't want people there at night. We want to keep this low impact, as I said. We also made application to the planning board for this to get a conceptual feel. We presented to the planning board 2 weeks ago, and I believe you'll find in the minutes that we had a positive recommendation for this application. And so I think if you look at Mr. Armitage's track record in the neighborhood, as far as what he's done previously and what he's done currently with this house and what he proposes to do, I think you'll find this as an asset to the neighborhood. If you look at the implications as far as financials if we were to go with, to construct two new houses take the two houses that are there and reconstruct new houses. We've explored that opportunity. If you saw in your packet, Mr. Orzik from Hunt Realty did an appraisal of that and found that it's financially not prudent to do anything like that associated with this property. So we're kind of in a situation where if we don't do this use variance to go for the mini storage, what do we do? And the economics don't seem to work out. He is an active part of this neighborhood. One other point I'd like to bring out, if you look at the neighborhood itself, and it's a mixed-use neighborhood. You've got residential, multifamily, commercial, industrial, CSX, RG&E, RW Lindsay, the town of Arundecoit physical plant buildings there. So it's a unique neighborhood. I think that this project is an asset to that neighborhood. If you look further down Rock Beach Road, you have kind of the White City area where smaller houses where they're going to need storage. I think this is a viable opportunity. Also, Mr. Armitage's experience in the neighborhood in the last 2 years, people have knocked on his door, hey, do you have any room for me over here? We're looking to store a boat or a car in this nice new building. That's not going to work out, but I think we could find a home for people here. So that's a brief overview of what we're presenting to you tonight, and I can answer any questions you have.
Yeah, John, is this pretty much what it's going to look like?
Yep, we're going to go with a maroon exterior with a metal roof and tan trim. And also, thanks for pointing that out, we're also going to paint the front house in the same manner to make it more uniform and clean up that house as well. It's going to be sided this spring.
Oh, so the house is not coming down?
The front house is remaining and will be sided and treated in the same fashion as that house. And then the other new buildings in the back will be consistent with that as well.
So is that three units on each side of the building, or is that, so there's like 6 overhead doors in the building?
There'll be 10 overhead doors, 10 on each side. That's more just showing Mr. Armitage's current building with the metal side in the style that we want to have. It's not how the building, there is another plan in there showing the mini storage building itself. So the mini storage buildings are 40-foot wide, 90-foot long. Each will have a garage door. I think they're 14 feet high. I'd also like to point out the design and the layout of this site. It's changed under the planning board's direction and under staff direction. Originally, the buildings were turned 90 degrees, but Larry came up with a good point. If we turn the buildings and have them run north-south like they currently show, that'll give the opportunity for the neighbors to look through the site and not be blocked by any buildings. And I think that's a welcome addition to the plan as well. I don't know if that answers your question, Mr. Thomas.
Separate driveway entrance, John?
Yeah, we're proposing a new curb cut just along the CSX property to the north of the house. And as you enter the property for the mini storage unit, you'll come off the road approximately 100 feet to a gate, and that's where you'll have access to the mini storage. So that'll be so there won't be any cars queuing on Washington Avenue, and I think it'll be again unobtrusive to the neighbors.
Sorry, which side is the railway right-of-way?
Mike, up here.
Just turn it on, John.
Is it on?
Yep.
Washington Avenue's here. This is the existing residence. The railroad tracks are right here. This is the RG&E substation over here. So we're going to put a new driveway along the north property line. And then there'll be a gate right here, a new board-on-board fence, kind of segmenting off the residential property, a board-on-board fence all the way around. And also under planning board direction, we're going to take the 6-foot board-on-board fence and bring it right down to the range line of the house to further buffer the people to the south. And that really our intention is to make sure that these people are happy with the situation. And I mentioned quickly that meeting we had back in March. We had most of the neighbors were here and took a look at the plan, and a lot of them, I think there's some here this evening that said, you know, anything's better than those 2 houses that are there today. So we're hoping that this is a welcome addition to the neighborhood.
And I'm sorry if I missed it, but the house that's remaining is going to be used as what?
As a rental property.
Oh, okay.
There's currently a family living there now.
So they'll stay.
They'll stay, and the only changes that we want to do is to re-side it and bring it up to look almost like the maroon color of Mr. Armitage's building. We want to make this all uniform and clean up the property.
So the feedback from the neighborhood is very positive about this?
It has been, and I hope that we'll have some more positive input tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the developer here is to be applauded for meeting with the neighbors, having the open house, getting all the feedback, and perhaps more importantly, really listening to them and changing his plans because of that feedback. I read all the letters in favor of this. Has there been any pushback against this plan?
Well, I don't want to tip anyone's hand. Mr. Harmon's here tonight, and Mr. Harmon's house is right here. He owns from Lakeshore Boulevard, east of our property, all the way to the railroad tracks. And I spoke with him briefly in the back room before the meeting, and, he's not jumping up and down about this project. He understands the situation, and what we want to do is further buffer Mr. Harmon. He's put a board-on-board fence under his own cost down this east line and then up to the shed to buffer the property as it currently stands. We plan on continuing his fence, and we're going to continue being good neighbors with him. Anything we can do with your resolution tonight, minimizing hours, minimizing light spill, those are all things that we welcome and endorse to try to help him out.
Just as a comment to that, I mean, if, and I have no position one way or the other, but the matter would then go back for an overall site plan approval before the planning board.
Yes, that's
So they haven't finished the site approval, they've
Yeah.
only.
They went in for a preliminary review at the conclusion, and actually, there was more than one review, my recollection is, and at the recommendations they made, for example, I know the applicant shrunk the building size down, and at the conclusion of that, they made a favorable recommendation to this board, with the understanding, things like light spill and buffering, those are all going to be subject to Section 274, the site plan review.
Any other questions? I just wanted to comment on what a nice job you did on the packet.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Made it very easy to lay it all out, and all the information that we asked for financial information for use variances was there, and greatly appreciated.
Yep. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Step right up.
Hi, I'm Zach Genovese. I reside at 5036 St. Paul Boulevard. I just want to say I live right next door to where Craig just built that new barn. He has been a great neighbor. He has been really compliant. I have 2 young kids. They go to bed at an early hour. He does have outdoor lighting out there. He has shielded them. Every complaint I have ever had, which there hasn't really been many, it's just issues, and he has brought it all to the table and has been more than willing to work with us. So I just wanted to bring that to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Step right up.
Michael Rickard, 618 Lakeshore. My property is 3 down from this. And for whatever reason, I haven't been involved in any of this discussion previously. But I have 2 points. One is, you're eroding R1. Yes, Washington Avenue on the other side of the railroad tracks is built up industrial, but this would be the first time on this side of the Hojack line that we've got any commercial business. The other thing that bothers me is, if you remember a couple of years ago, there was a storage facility down on the ridge, and somebody had stored a couple of cases of dynamite in there, and then forgot about it. I'm not totally sure that an unrestricted storage facility is ideal for a residential neighborhood. You know, there are positives to this thing too, but there's a few negatives.
Anyone else wish to speak in opposition to the application? Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the application, and they're not sure if it's for or against, just wishes to raise points concerning the application? All right, then we'll close the hearing with respect to that matter and move on to our next case.
Next item on the agenda is case number, ZB 1312-3. Upon the matter of request by Edward Dunn for area variances to maintain an existing portion of gravel driveway pursuant to section 235-77.d of the town code and to continue park/store a commercial landscape trailer inside yard on premises 56 Fairlay Drive in an R2 residential district.
My name is Eddie Dunn, and I live at 56 Fairley Drive.
If you could raise your right hand, Mr. Dunn, do you swear or affirm that everything you say tonight will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
I've lived on Fairley Drive going on 11 years. When I first moved in and I approached the town about installing a wider driveway, I didn't need a permit because of the distance it is back from the road, which is approximately 35 feet. So I installed it and I wasn't aware it needed to be paved. Gravel, for one, I have a water problem at the home at times, and I think if it was paved, water might tend to go towards the house more. With gravel, it tends to drain a little bit better. I'm a small businessman in Arundecoit. I maintain about 30 homes in Arundecoit. I have a trailer that I try to keep in the garage most of the time. Sometimes if I'm working on something, I park it in the rear of the gravel portion of the driveway, up against the house, or up against the garage, Try to keep it out of the way. It's been like that for, 9 years now that I've had that additional driveway put in. I did walk around to all my neighbors and asked if that was any inconvenience, obtrusive, unattractive, or if it bothered them in any way, shape, or form. I got approximately 14 signatures. I believe you guys might have had that paper distributed to you guys.
Somewhere.
And I'm just here to request to keep the driveway gravel and be allowed to park the trailer. The trailer is smaller than the required, or the town ordinance. It's a 6x12 landscape trailer. So it's underneath the size of a trailer limit that you guys have for. I have a copy of the signatures if you want me to.
Because I don't recall seeing that.
I didn't either.
Yep, I got one.
Hmm?
He handed them out this morning. What's with the new stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Got it?
Yeah.
Oh, the third set of stuff I did get it, okay, all right, I'm sorry, thank you.
Any questions?
Just for the record, we have a signature, a page of signatures from neighbors at 42 Fairley Drive, 36 Fairley Drive, 48 Fairley, 21 Fairley, 28 Fairley, 35 Fairley, 12 Tyndale, 61 Fairley, 80 Fairley, and 68 Fairley Drive. Anybody have any questions? Is there room to store the trailer behind the house?
Behind the house, not really. I think it would be more obtrusive to the neighbors that live behind me because that area is open where the garage is now located. If you see on the survey map, it's located pretty close to the back of the property line, and putting it in front of the garage sort of blocks it from anybody that's behind. I have a double lot, and the side lot that the home isn't on has 5 pine trees that line the front of it, and that does somewhat obstruct the view towards the back, coming in from the east heading west. So if I parked it in the back of the yard, it would just be visible to both of the neighbors that live behind me.
Ed, you over here.
Oh, okay.
In the survey map, you've got written in, if needed be, can build fence next to the garage to cover up the trailer.
Yeah, there's an addition that was put on the garage prior to me purchasing the home, and if if it need be, I could probably construct a fence in that area that the trailer could be stored in, but then again, I have to drive on the lawn each time to get it back to that spot. But I'm sure I could, in the spring, once things start to thaw out a little, construct a fence and put it back there to keep it from, out of view if needed be.
What about, instead of doing it to the right of the garage, what about right in front of the garage? Right in front of the garage part that does not have a door? The right side of the garage.
I guess that could be done.
It's not necessarily something that I'm requesting, I'm just thinking of an alternative to keep anybody that might not be happy with the look of the trailer parked in the driveway, if it was, because it's so far back from the road, it doesn't look too...
It's pretty far back.
Right, it doesn't look too intrusive. However, if there was a way or even trees or something, but, along the side of the driveway that could block some of the view of the trailer.
Well, to the right, in the area that I penciled in where I could build, there are 4 pine trees that line that side, so the people to the east of me can't see the trailer, and they both signed it saying that it didn't bother them. They have a 6-foot privacy fence in their yard, in their backyard, and the gentleman that is to the west of me, he also signed, and it never bothered him. It didn't, he didn't find it obtrusive.
Did I understand you to say that the trailer will fit in the garage?
It does fit in the garage, and when it's loaded, a lot of times at night, I try to put it in the garage just to keep it safe, yes.
Wouldn't that be the answer to this problem, is just keep it in the garage when it's at your property?
Sometimes I unfortunately have equipment that breaks down, and the garage is kind of a workshop, and it's not always open to put the trailer in, just because there's a workshop in there where I'm working on things. I try to keep it out of the way, and then in the wintertime, being that there's only one garage door, I usually load the trailer, tarp it, and park it in front of the garage on the right side, and use the garage for putting my vehicle in, keep it out of the weather.
I'm looking at this picture that you submitted with the application. Mm-hmm. And I see that there's 2 ladders that are sticking up.
Those are
Top of the trailer.
Those are usually only on during the fall cleanup time of the season, and they're usually stored.
All right. And then I'm looking at I'm thinking that, that really doesn't jump out at me as being something that's like really attractive.
Understood.
And then, following up on the point that Mr. LaPerry raised about the driveway and fencing as shown on the survey map, would you be willing to put a fence to you've got the gravel portion denominated on here. Would you be willing to line that gravel portion with a 6-foot fence?
And run it from the garage where? To the end of the gravel?
Yes.
And just a straight shot, right?
Well, and coming over to where I'm talking about,
An L-shaped?
I guess that would be an L.
Because it would be difficult to run it in between the driveway, the existing, the
Oh,
driveway.
no. I'm talking about on the east side of the gravel portion,
Okay.
and then angling over to the asphalt portion of the driveway. Assume that's where the trailer would be stored when it's not in the garage.
I guess anything's possible. Yeah, it can be built, I imagine.
I guess, my question is, would you be willing to do that? That would shield the view of the trailer from the road, and also, provide a little more of a buffer of the kinds of things that I saw in the driveway when I drove by last week.
Yeah, I can do that. That's what's required. Sure, I would take care of that.
And then the gravel, you're asking to maintain the gravel driveway. How long has that gravel driveway been installed?
Probably 9 years.
And did you put that in?
Yeah, well, I had a friend do a concrete wall, and then I filled the area with gravel.
Because we had a application for a gravel driveway, probably 5 or 6 months ago, and the homeowner was talking about different layers of gravel and how by making it in that way, it was much more permeable than the asphalt would be and would have the water drain through it rather than run in and flood his garage or neighbor's backyards.
Mm-hmm.
And has that been your experience with the gravel driveway that?
Yeah, I haven't had any problems. I definitely have to run my downspouts away from the house, because if I leave them where they hit the driveway, it comes back and comes into the home. But now we put number 2 stone down first, and then crusher run on top so that it does drain fairly well. I haven't had puddles in the garage or anything like that. It seems to go down through the gravel and go out into the lawn without any problems.
And is the stone fairly stable in terms of it's not getting pitched around every time you move a vehicle on it?
No, it's pretty packed down.
Okay. Now, have you talked to one of your neighbors named John Quealy? That's you. Because we received a letter from Mr. Quealy.
I can read that if you'd like me to do that when my turn to go up.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to ask, are you familiar with his?
No, I'm not familiar with his letter.
Okay, all right. Well, he's going to come up, so afterwards
Okay.
we'll get a chance to have you address what he has to add. Okay. All right. So, any other questions?
Yeah, I have to make a comment here, because I guess my problem isn't, so much about the surface of the driveway as it is the appearance of that whole scene around the garage. As I drove by it yesterday, it just looked to me like it was almost like a construction site. There was a lot of stuff out there, which, and I'm trying to pick my words very carefully here, because I'm not Joe Neat either, exactly in some cases, but still, when we have commercial vehicles stored in driveways, it starts to affect the character of the neighborhood. We had one on was it Avondale?
Yes.
He wanted to put 2 or 3 lined up in his driveway. I mean, this is a common request. And we live in a residential neighborhood, at least we're trying to keep it that way as much as we can. And having all this commercial stuff in driveways is getting to be almost like an epidemic. Now, not that you should be suffering because other people are doing it either, but, excuse me, it's, I guess I'd be more inclined to vote in favor of this proposal regarding keeping the trailer out there if it looked nicer, I feel bad for the people, well, I don't feel too bad for them because they have trees, but right next to your property, it's a little unsightly, I guess that's what I'm saying, and I can certainly see it from the road. And I would encourage that if you get the variance tonight, that you try to keep the eyesore appearance out of the
Understood.
picture, best you can.
Understood.
Yeah.
That was the reason why I was suggesting the fence that Mr. LaPerry was talking about, as a way of shielding the eyesore
again,
stuff from the driveway.
Just if there was a fence around that right side of the driveway and bring it back in on an angle along with the way the way the stone is, it would hide the construction trailer. It would hide it, and then he could go about his business normally.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate your help. and your
Again, it's
suggestion.
far enough back away from the road, but it's still, like Mr. Thompson said, you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from the board? All right. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in opposition to this application?
Good evening.
Evening.
I submitted a copy of my points and remarks to this morning, I guess it was, to one of the receptionists. And the reason I did that is because I wasn't sure I could be here tonight. I'm on some kind of heavy medication, so I was not sure whether I'd be here or not, but I said I was determined to show up and you could see who I am. And I've met Eddie several times, and I think I introduced myself to this young man as a new neighbor. My name is John Quayle, and should I raise my hand now?
Nope, you don't need to be sworn in.
Oh, okay. Well, my name is John Quayle, and I've lived at 110 Wisner Road for perhaps coming on to 45 years. And my property is directly behind, or south, okay, north rather, I'm sorry, north of Eddie's property. And I do, object to the variance. And my points are that we are a residential neighborhood, and any on-street or off-street, and oftentimes there's a lot of on-street commercial-type vehicles that are in our neighborhood. And so I think that it was interesting, just the other day in the Arundecoit Post, you might have read an article about Adam Bello, the new supervisor-elect. And in the interview, he said that, talking about property and commercial development, or a variance, if I may take that liberty, my first priority would be to make sure that the project does not negatively impact the neighborhood and the taxpayer. My second point is the side yard referred to in the variance request is approximately 15 feet, not from Fairleigh, but 15 feet from the property line to my bedroom. And when you look at a parked landscape vehicle, by the way, I have a picture here of that, if I can share with you after this. When you look at that, it really is kind of an eyesore. One might say it's not an eyesore, but from the north looking south, it is. Maybe from the south looking north, it is not. And the side yard referred to in the request is, again, only 15 feet from my bedroom. Okay. When I decide to sell my property, okay, which is, again, 15 feet from this variance request, our outside bedroom, you can just look out there. So if I am a prospective buyer of my property, and I walk around my property on the south side, and I see one commercial landscape trailer parked there, then I just think I would have a negative view. All right? And the only other thing I want to add is the application for zoning variance, which someone, I think it was this young lady here, shared with me when I visited you about a week ago, I guess it was, that indicates that the applicant has asked his neighbors if the side driveway variance would be an eyesore. Well, he has said here this evening, there's 14 people have signed some piece that said, but I'm the closest one to him besides the one on the east side and the west side. I was never asked about it, okay? Maybe we could have had a reasonable discussion about it. I was never asked about it. And so that kind of puzzled me when I see them all the way out to Culver Road saying, yes, well, hell, they can't even see the property from there. But it's 15 feet from my bedroom. The only other point I want to make, if I can open my page here, and I want to just make it certain. I don't know who filed the grievance, because I want you to know it wasn't me. So I'm not here as a person that I was unaware of all of this going on until I received your little 4x6 card, which I thank you very much for. And I understand everybody within 20 feet? 200 feet. Okay, that doesn't even go up to Culver Road, does it, huh? And hardly down to 66. So I'm in the cul-de-sac behind Fairleigh, if you have any idea where that may be. So that's all I have to say. One of the board members here has talked about, I think that we're having a commercial environment to our town of Arundecoit. That's as I go up and down streets, wherever I go around. And so I just I wasn't sure I was going to be here, but I wanted to be here, so I'm here, and I'm glad I had an opportunity to talk to you and make my point. Thank you very much.
I have a question for you, if you don't
Yes, sir.
mind. You're talking about the trailer being visible from your bedroom window, is
May
that?
I show you a picture?
Sure, that might help.
I just wasn't prepared for all of this as quickly, I guess, as I should have been, because I didn't know about it. Here's another one, it's a similar type view, okay?
All right, with reference to that photo,
Yeah, that's right out my bedroom window.
no, I understand that.
Yeah.
All right, and in that photo, I believe what's shown is the addition to the garage
Right. I was here, I assume that's what he was referring to, yeah.
and the
yeah.
back of the garage.
Yeah, right,
All right?
yeah,
Now, in looking at the instrument survey,
yeah.
that what he's asking us for is permission to park that trailer in front of the garage. So that would not be, the trailer itself wouldn't be visible through the garage from your bedroom window. That view wouldn't change. And we've discussed about a fence going down the side of the gravel portion to further shield the trailer from view from the street.
Good. Well, if you're looking at the same photo, you have an area map there, whatever, and I have a picture, or I'm looking out my bedroom window. And if that trailer is within that view, okay, that's obtrusive to me, and I think it's obtrusive in the neighborhood.
And I would agree, but I believe that what we're talking about is this edge of the roof of the garage that you
Yeah, I
can
see
see
that.
here. It
Yeah.
would be parked between the front edge of that and Fairleigh Drive, with a fence around the gravel part of the driveway, which isn't, we're not talking about parking it over here where you could see it, or even parking it in front of the extended area.
Well, I can answer your question. Let me just say this, that philosophically, I'm against that. I'm
Understood.
just against the trailer being in the yard, period.
That
because
I
it's
understand.
I think it's the erosion of the suburban atmosphere of the community. That's my own opinion. Would that be an alternative if you pushed me to the wall? Yes, it would be. But that's not my first choice.
I understand it's not your first choice.
So on such late notice, I'm thankful that you allowed me to get up and talk.
That's part of the reason why we asked to have the signs put in front of the properties.
But you go up and down the street and you see them, and if they're not even, I didn't even see the sign. If it was there before I received the posting, I don't know. But if it was there, I never even saw it.
It was there on Friday when I went by, because I check on
Yeah,
it.
but I mean, when I got the posting.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
You got that earlier,
Yeah.
I believe.
It was on the 21st of November, if I think it was correct, yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Step right up.
I'm back. I'm Janet View, 52 Wisner Road. My house is about 6 or 8 houses down the street. My driveway's on Fairleigh. I'm kind of half in and out of, am I for it or am I against it? I think you've pretty much covered the issues that I find. I'm a real estate broker for 30 years. I know what happens when we start getting mixed use in areas, when we start putting commercial vehicles in residential areas. And what I see from the road as I come down Fairleigh home regularly, unfortunately, is Eddie's commercial vehicles. And there are 2 other landscape businesses, people who live in the neighborhood within a few houses of Eddie's that are doing the same thing. I know that's not your issue tonight, but what's happening is I see a slippery slope here where we get one trailer, pretty soon there's another trailer and a third trailer. And now I'm seeing ladders and wheelbarrows and other pieces of equipment that are putting a blight on the street. I recently had the house at number 66 for sale. I got negative comments from people that came through that property, that they were concerned for the decline of the neighborhood. And I asked specifically what was their concern, and they said, it's all this riffraff with all these trucks and these trailers. And I said,
66
well,
Fairleigh?
this is on Fairleigh. In the last 3 days, I've spoken with 3 neighbors who came to me, who said that they couldn't make the meeting, and they were really concerned about setting a precedent by saying it's okay, the town approves to put a commercial vehicle parked in a driveway, and then pretty soon everybody else is going to be doing it. You know, I don't know. Maybe there's some way that Eddie can put up beautiful pine trees that are mature so that from the road you don't see anything, and he hides it. That's the only thing I can think of. I want to be a nice neighbor, but I know definitely if I'm going to appraise a property and next door there's a commercial vehicle, the value of that property goes down. And pretty soon there's another property a few doors down, they park their commercial vehicle in their driveway, and that affects values all around. So I guess I'm opposed to the idea of parking commercial vehicles in a residential area. If he can camouflage it somehow, I say, he bought a house in a residential area knowing he was an entrepreneur, he's in business, a successful business. The cost of business is paying for where you store your equipment. And I think that he's going to have to put it in the garage, put an addition on the garage, I don't know, something to hide it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this application, neither for nor against, or otherwise not certain of what they wish to, what we would call their comments?
Hi, Dan Domanicore, 66 Wisner again. I'm about 4 or 5 houses from Eddie. And I'm the one that bought, obviously, when Janet listed it, I came as myself, as I'm also a realtor. And that is a legit concern. There are some houses that was, I've been looking for a year for myself, that really, be honest, I did not want to come back to Arundecoit. The taxes, and going up and down that street, there's a saying, sometimes you get penalized for having one of the nicest houses on the street, and you've been down that street now Friday, so it was a major concern for me, looking at some of the houses on that street. But on the flip side, I can't control that. I have to just take care of my property. But getting back to his property, I think if he was to hide that, or somehow where the gravel is, the fence, or behind, and I understand the gentleman through his bedroom window, I would not want to see that myself. I think that would be fine, because it is far enough off the road. So either, like Janet said, either in the garage, or if whatever makes more sense, the fence, that would be nice looking. It would, I don't think it would take away from the neighborhood. As you say, maybe reorganize the yard, as you were trying to put, I think, before. As I tell my kids, reorganize your rooms. So I think that is an option. So am I against it? No. Am I for it? No. But I think if Eddie did that, I think that would definitely, hopefully, solve everybody's issues as far as the eyesore effect is what you're trying to say, I think, so.
Anyone else that wishes to speak?
I just want to clarify. There are 2 variances here. One is to allow the gravel driveway as opposed to asphalt or Portland cement concrete. The other is the question of whether this is a commercial trailer, even though the size of the trailer is 6 by 12. There would be some people who would have a snowmobile on it, or they would have their dirt bikes on it, and they would have their jet skis on it, and we would call it a residential trailer, and it would have to be tucked back behind the garage now that it's no longer the season, so to speak. So this really comes down to the visual impact of someone who's actually in the landscape business and how they maintain their property.
Does it have to be tucked behind the garage or tucked behind the front foundation wall?
For residential, for a recreation vehicle, that's what you're talking about. Recreation vehicles, it could be along the side of your house, 4 feet, 3 feet away from the property line.
Right, so
Or it could be in the rear.
behind the front foundation line.
Right.
So the location that he's talking about in the driveway, if it wasn't a commercial trailer, would be, he wouldn't need any
Right.
special permission for that.
Correct.
All right, I wasn't sure, and I wanted to be sure of that. Okay.
Okay. Yes, the case is more that in a, we'll call it a post-war house where the garage is at the same front as the house, then they need to be tucked behind the front of the house. Here we have a older style home with a separate garage out back, but in any event, there's really the two issues here. One is the gravel surface, the other is this a residential or commercial, and, you know, we all have our opinion as to the use.
All right, Mr. Dunn, did you have further comments that you wish to address to the board?
No, one thing I wanted to mention, with John, as far as what he looked out his window and saw, I wasn't aware, I was not supposed to put the trailer on the lawn, which is to the right of the gravel, which is what he saw. So, once it's moved over to the garage, he won't see it, or he wouldn't see it either way. So, I just wanted to point out that that won't be to the right of that gravel or east of that gravel anymore.
All right, is there any question that this trailer is used for commercial activity as opposed to recreational?
Well, I have a landscape business, so I definitely use it to, haul mowers around.
And I take it that use occurs largely between April 1st and November 30th?
Yep, approximately then. Sometimes in through December doing gutters, I put ladders on it.
Okay.
When you were out talking with neighbors, was there any reason that you didn't approach the neighbor 15 feet from your...
In all honesty, it's just ignorance. I went around here and it just didn't even dawn on me to go behind. I apologize, John, or I never wanted to not talk to you. It didn't dawn on me.
Any other questions? All right, and we'll close the hearing with respect to this case, and we will take we'll come back at 8:10. Washington Avenue. And I think Mr. Dunn left, but he's third on the agenda anyway. So we'll do the matters in the order that they appear on the agenda, since that also works with who's present. Does anyone, first matter would be the application with respect to 66 Wisner Road. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this variance as presented with the following findings. First of all, the construction of that fence would solve this problem of privacy, and it's not obtrusive, and it would not change the character of the neighborhood. There's not really an alternative to it, with the possible exception of planting natural trees, foliage around it, which still can be done to soften that appearance, as was already mentioned. There's not a huge request for a huge variance. It's very reasonable, and would have no effect on the physical or the environmental conditions of the area. It's somewhat self-created because you don't have to have a fence there to survive. However, it's not a strong enough case to deny, I think, the application. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. 6 votes in favor, no votes opposed, no abstentions. 1 board member is absent. The next item pertains to 670 Washington Avenue. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application?
I guess I'll, you want to give it a try, or? I'll make a motion that we approve 670 Washington Avenue. Obviously, it meets all the criteria in reference to the use variance for a reasonable rate of return on his investment. It is a unique circumstance because of the fact that there are rental homes there right now, and he wants to make a mini storage. It is bordering industrial and commercial use, and also it's R1. It is cleaning up a troubled area in the purchase of the property as a whole, with the three buildings that were there. I think it will be a change in the character of the neighborhood in 2 ways. I think it does change the character of the neighborhood in reference to it being kind of run down, that particular parcel, and that it will be cleaning it up and making it look very presentable, very much like his building down the street. It also changes the character of the neighborhood in reference to it. It's not going to be 100% residential, but because it is mini storage and low volume of action happening at mini storage, I don't believe it hurts the character of the neighborhood. Again, based on the reasonable return on his investment that he deserves, I believe we should approve the buildings.
All right.
I'll second.
Unless somebody's got something to say.
Can I make a comment before you vote? And again, it's not taking a position regarding whether this should be voted upon favorably or not. My guest of honor just walked back into the room, our town fire marshal. I did consult with him during the presentation, and he reminded me that there is a town ordinance which restricts the storage of certain items in a mini storage type area. So it's implicit that that the applicant, if this matter were granted, and again, I take no position on it, but if it were, would comply with town ordinance, and it does allow for an inspection as well.
And I'm actually very glad you brought it up, because it was one of the things I did want to bring into account in reference to making that a request.
So that would be a condition of approval would be that no hazardous or dangerous substances or items prohibited by
Fire marshal.
The town
code would be allowed. Okay.
I think I understood that this has to go back to the planning board.
Correct.
For their approval.
It'll go back to the planning board for an overall site plan approval.
Okay.
I have two questions. First, can we put restrictions on for the hours of operation? I think I heard someone make a comment about that during the comments. And I would, that's one question. The second question is, the gentleman who spoke in favor of it mentioned that the other property had shielding around lights so that the light would face down and wouldn't spill over into the adjacent residences. Can we put conditions on either of those?
I
Counselor?
think that it might be within your purview, but it's more appropriate for the site plan pursuant to section 274A.
That would have to do with the light spillage, with the spilling over, but in terms of us granting the use variance, but limiting it to certain hours of operation, would that be something that we could do? For instance, if we were to say that from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday?
I recollect specifically that that was part of the planning board's deliberation, so I don't think you're precluded from doing that, but I know that that mechanism is already in place with the planning board, and it might be more appropriate to defer to the site plan approval. It's up to you all.
If we were to defer, though, would there be any way for us to have a guarantee that they would put that type of limitation on?
No.
Well, then, I mean, it's my opinion that because it is a residential neighborhood, this should not be allowed to operate 24 hours a day. It's not McDonald's.
I agree with him.
So do you have any, as the movement, do you have any idea or recommendation for hours of operation?
I don't think it's inappropriate to have the applicant point out what the hours were, because I have a recollection they were talking about what the hours of operation would be, with the chairman's permission.
That would be fine.
As the board member stated, we do want to limit hours. We do not want a 24-hour operation, so a 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. weekday and a 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. weekend would work perfect for us, if that meets your recommendation.
I think those hours sound good to me, so
6 a.m. to what?
9 p.m.? Thank you very much.
And can the gate be programmed so it wouldn't open during those hours?
Correct.
Oh, fantastic. Self-enforcing condition, I love it. All right, so I have, as a condition approval, that there would be no hazardous or dangerous substances or items prohibited by the town code to be stored, and the hours to be limited to Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday and Sunday, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Would Saturday and Sunday include holidays?
Saturday, Sundays, and all legal holidays.
And legal holidays, okay.
Makes sense.
American legal holidays.
I think those are the only kind that are recognized as legal right now, anyway. All right. All right, any other discussion?
Yes, actually, I just want to mention that I'm going to support the motion, but I also, one of the reasons I am is because they are maintaining that house. So that it's sort of like a trade-off in a way. You're getting the use variance, but you're also maintaining the residential part of this thing. Because I agree wholly with the gentleman who said that we are eroding R1. And in this case, eroding R1, from what I'm hearing tonight, will be an improvement in this area. But the fact that the house is going to be there and improved makes it a lot more palatable to me. I just wanted to mention that.
Any other comments or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. One board member continues to be absent. The next item is the application with respect to 56 Fairley Drive. This is a type 2 action for seeker purposes. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to this application? Nobody wants to jump all at once, all right. I will make a motion that we grant the variance subject to conditions. The conditions would be that, number one, there's two variances here. So first, the first motion would pertain to the gravel driveway. I would move that we grant the application with respect to the gravel driveway. With respect to that application, it will not result in any change in the character of the neighborhood because the driveway has been in place for a substantial period of time already. I believe he said 10 to 12 years, and has not negatively impacted, the fact that it's gravel has not negatively impacted the character of the neighborhood. The alternative that doesn't require a variance would be an asphalt or a concrete driveway, and the applicant testified that he already has drainage issues with the portion of the driveway that is paved, and that those drainage issues are not applicable to the portion of the driveway where the gravel is. It is, because of the dimensions of the driveway as it sits on the lot, is more of a substantial request than would normally be the case, but in reference to the property itself and the overall dimensions of the fact that it's a double lot, it is not a substantial request when it's considered by itself, but the dimensions are larger than we would usually be dealing with. It will not have a negative impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. It is a self-created situation in that when he applied for the permit, he didn't check on what the requirements were, and so he installed the gravel, not realizing that it was not in conformity with the town code. So I would, with respect to the gravel driveway, that would be the motion.
I'd second it.
Any discussion?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
I
Thomas.
just want to make sure I understand, your motion is just for the driveway?
There's two applications in front of us. First is the gravel driveway, and the second application deals with the trailer.
Okay. So we're on the driveway right now.
We're on the driveway right now.
And we're not going, the variance as to the driveway is only to allow the additional gravel portion to remain gravel forever. And it has nothing to do with the existing asphalt driveway, correct? Would it be possible to amend this to state that when the asphalt driveway is replaced or repaired at some point, that the whole driveway needs to be made asphalt? So that the gravel can stay there until the main portion is replaced, and then we want the whole thing to be asphalt, in other words?
All right, so what I'll add as a condition is that if the asphalt driveway is replaced, that the entire surface is to be paved with appropriate drainage. Is that acceptable? All right. All right, so all those in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries, 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. One member of the board remains absent. And then the next application before us is in relation to the trailer. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to the trailer?
I'll make a motion that we grant the request for parking the trailer only on the driveway or the gravel area, not on the lawn, in front of the garage. And that we request that he builds a 6-foot-high fence along the east side of the gravel driveway so that it will buffer from any negative appearance from the neighbors.
And would that fence continue?
It should continue north and south, south from the corner of the garage to the corner where it goes in on an angle, all the way to the pavement.
And then should it
It should
angle?
make the angle and then continue to the actual pavement driveway, and it can stop there.
It's sort of an L shape.
Yeah, it's not an L, but like a J shape or a,
It's a letter.
it's an angle. On an angle.
Can I ask a question of clarification?
Yes.
You used the word request that he construct the fence. Are you making it a condition?
Yes, yes. Make a condition that he install a fence on the east side of the driveway.
And
It's a 6-foot-high fence, and a decorative fence. And at some point, if he could, add shrubbery to the outside of it, would be fine, but not necessary. And then, again, you don't have to put that part there.
And I'll second the motion with and I think it's also as part of the condition is that the trailers to be behind the fence on the driveway.
Yes, yeah, the trailer should be kept, directly in front of the garage.
And
Garage,
as a further,
or in the garage, but,
well, in the garage wouldn't require the variance.
right,
So
but
if you,
directly in front of the garage.
so it's to be in front of the garage, behind the fence, and I'd also like to put as a condition without any items taller than the
6-foot
highest
high
portion
fence.
of the trailer.
Yep.
So nothing more, nothing higher than the tallest part of the trailer.
Mr. Chairman, may I just get a clarification and not to, I don't know. Side yards are, 6-foot-high fences require a variance in the side yard. This gravel driveway is in the side yard, so you are also granting a variance for him to put that 6-foot-high fence up in the side yard.
Yes, we are,
Just wanted to clarify.
because we
that.
want it there.
He's got to file for a permit for all that stuff, for the fence and everything as well?
The fence, the gravel driveway is in the side yard. He could only, per the code, he's only supposed to be allowed a 6-foot fence from the rear foundation of the house back. So because you're
Coming up forward.
coming forward of the rear foundation, that's a variance as well.
He's going to have to file for a permit for that, or no?
For the fence, yes.
Yeah, he'll need to get a permit, the building permit, right?
Correct.
And with respect to that portion, I would note that the gravel portion of the driveway continues pretty much up to the front of the foundation, and that the purpose of the fence is to shield the trailer from the balance of the neighborhood, and that by having the fence there, it will actually improve the neighbor's view, because Mr. Dunn would be able to store things behind the fence that wouldn't be visible to the neighbors, that are visible to the neighbors now, which do not add to the attractiveness of the property and might be the subject of rearrangement, as we discussed previously. All right, so all those in favor of the second motion with respect to the trailer, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. And any abstentions? And we have one board member absent, so that motion also carries. 6 votes in favor, no opposed, no abstentions, and one board member continues to be absent. And that would then conclude our agenda for the evening and conclude our business.
I just have one quick question. I know we're done, but the only reason I voted in favor of this motion was because of the fence.
Yes.
But I don't know if there's any, guidelines as to how long it would take to put this fence up. I mean, this is going to be a tough time now to do it, so it'll probably be in the spring, but we didn't allude to that at all. But is that something that he could just sort of ignore for as long as he can get away with it, or would reminders be signed? I know if we didn't put it in the motion, we can't force the issue at this point, but
Well, no, the variance becomes null and void after a year. So if he doesn't
Complied with
All
the
right, good
condition
enough.
within
comply
a
with
year.
the conditions of the variance that's granted per the board, that variance becomes null and void, and he would have to reapply, I assume.
okay. That's good enough.
That'll work. All right. Thank you very much, and happy holidays to everyone.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
A musical note from our musical member.